When billionaire Grayson Holt sneered at 12-year-old Talia Green, daring her to dance for a family, he never expected her trembling steps would shatter his arrogance and force him to face the secret he thought he'd buried forever.
Hello, if you're ready to hear the whole story, click subscribe and tap the notification bell. Type in the comments where you're watching from, because tomorrow, I will be giving you another story just as touching as this one, or maybe even crazier. And you don't want to miss it. Now let's begin.
The ballroom fell silent after the billionaire spoke. "If you can dance this salsa," Grayson Holt said, his voice dripping with amusement, "I'll adopt you myself." The crowd erupted in laughter, sharp, glittering, merciless. The chandeliers trembled with it. Men in tailored tuxedos and women in sparkling gowns chuckled behind their champagne flutes, their jeweled bracelets clinking as if the humiliation of a 12-year-old girl were entertainment. Talia Green froze under the spotlight. Her brown eyes widened, shimmering not with tears, but with something fiercer, defiance. The music throbbed behind her, the band waiting for her cue, but her body felt rooted, every bone heavy under the weight of mockery. Grayson leaned back in his chair at the head table, smirking, his glass of bourbon glowing amber beneath the lights. "Well, don't keep us waiting." For a second the world spun too fast. This was supposed to be her night. Her foster mother, Claudine, had signed her up to perform with other children at the Cleveland Children's Foundation Gala. She had come in a borrowed dress 2 sizes too big, her hair braided the way her grandmother used to do it. She thought maybe, just maybe, someone important would notice her, and her dream of belonging might not be so impossible. And now instead, she was the punchline. The laughter echoed in her ears. She remembered what Claudine had told her just last night in the kitchen. "You gotta make people see you, even when they laugh, especially when they laugh." Talia stepped forward. "I'll dance," she said, her voice small but unshaking. The laughter stopped. For a moment, even Grayson looked surprised. Then the band struck the opening chords, and the music filled the ballroom. 12 hours earlier. The Briggs foster house was chaos as usual. Kids argued over cereal boxes, the television blared cartoons, and Claudine Briggs shouted above it all as she tried to herd everyone out the door. Talia sat at the edge of the counter, swinging her legs, too distracted to eat. She kept glancing at the folded gala invitation sticking out of her backpack. "You're not sick, so don't try it," Claudine warned, catching her eye. "You're going to that event. Lord knows you could use a night that's about something other than homework and hand-me-downs." "I'm not nervous," Talia muttered. "Then why you biting your lip like it owes you money?" Claudine shot back. Talia looked away, cheeks burning. "What if they laugh at me?" Claudine stopped mid-step. For a moment, the chaos of the house faded into background noise. She walked over, lowering her voice so only Talia could hear. "Baby girl, people gon' laugh no matter what. But if you want to be seen, you stand up anyway. You hear me?" Talia nodded. She didn't trust her voice not to crack. Across town, Grayson Holt's morning began with a TV camera shoved in his face. "Mr. Holt, any truth to the rumors you'll be donating $10 million tonight at the Children's Gala?" Grayson kept his expression unreadable, his stride long enough to make the cameraman jog to keep up. "Rumors are cheap. My time isn't." "Care to comment on the criticism that you've grown cold toward community outreach in recent years?" Grayson stopped, fixing the reporter with a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Tell me something. If I write a check to children I'll never meet, do I become a saint? Or do I just buy silence for another year?" The reporter faltered. Grayson strode into the waiting elevator, doors snapping shut behind him. Inside, alone, his smirk faded. He thought of a laugh he hadn't heard in years, a child's laugh, warm and alive. He thought of a tiny hand gripping his finger. Then, as always, he shoved the memory down, swallowing it with the bitterness that had kept him alive this long. Back at the gala, present time. The music wrapped itself around Talia like a dare. She raised her chin, shoulders squaring, and let her feet find the rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, she mouthed. Her steps were shaky at first. The borrowed dress swished awkwardly around her knees. A few guests chuckled again, whispering behind their hands. But then something shifted. She remembered her grandmother's voice. "Dance like the floor belongs to you, Talia. Nobody can take that away." Her body loosened. Her hips found the sway. Her arms began to slice the air with sharp, deliberate grace. The whispers faded. The band, sensing her rising confidence, played harder, faster. The room tilted from mockery to stunned attention. And for a moment, even Grayson Holt stopped smiling. By the time the song ended, Talia was trembling with exhaustion. She had stumbled once, caught herself, and pushed through. Her heart raced so fast she thought it might burst. The ballroom was silent. Then, slowly, applause began, tentative at first, then growing louder. Grayson raised his glass again, smirk returning. "Well," he drawled, "you've got spirit, I'll give you that." But behind the mockery, something flickered in his eyes, something even he didn't recognize yet. And in the crowd, someone filmed the entire thing on their phone. By morning, the world would see.
The applause didn't feel real. Talia stood on the polished ballroom floor, chest heaving, her feet aching from the borrowed shoes that pinched her toes. The clapping rose around her like rain, but it sounded hollow, too slow, too polite. She knew the truth. Half the room had only stopped laughing because she'd had the nerve to finish. She bowed stiffly, the way the program director had taught the children earlier, and hurried off the stage before her legs betrayed her. Her throat burned, but she refused to let a single tear fall. Not here. Not in front of him. Grayson Holt. He was still smirking at the head table, glass of bourbon in hand, as if nothing significant had just happened, as if she hadn't just staked her dignity on his cruel dare. "You've got spirit," he had said. Spirit, like she was some circus act. Claudine was waiting for her near the exit. She grabbed Talia's hands, squeezing tight. "Baby, you did amazing. Do you hear me? Amazing." Talia shook her head, jaw locked. "They laughed." "And then they stopped," Claudine countered, "because you didn't quit. You hear me? You finished what you started. That matters more than all their fancy jewelry." Talia wanted to believe her, but the sound of the laughter still rang louder than the applause. Grayson leaned back in his chair, watching the girl disappear into the wings. He expected to feel nothing. He had humiliated people before, political rivals, journalists, board members, and it had always rolled off him like water. It was a game. Strike first, strike sharp. Remind the world who held the power. But this time, something lingered. Maybe it was the way she had steadied herself mid-stumble, refusing to give up. Or the fire in her eyes when she'd said, "I'll dance." She had looked at him as if daring him to laugh harder. It was too familiar. For a flicker of a second, he had seen someone else in her place. Dark curls bouncing as she twirled in a summer park, laughing because she couldn't get the step right, but trying again anyway. Grayson blinked hard, lifting the bourbon to his lips. The ghost vanished, replaced by the clink of ice and the taste of charred oak. "You handled that poorly." His mother's voice cut through the haze. Evelyn Holt sat beside him, her smile brittle for the benefit of the table around them. Only he could hear the steel beneath her tone. "They loved it," Grayson replied, not looking at her. "They laughed," Evelyn said sharply. "At you, not with you. There's a difference." He finally turned, his jaw tight. "Relax, Mother. It was a joke. She wanted attention. I gave her a stage." Evelyn's eyes, cold and gray, pinned him. "You sounded exactly like your father just now." The words landed like a knife. Grayson turned away, swirling the bourbon in his glass until the amber liquid blurred. In the corner of the ballroom, a young man checked his phone. His eyes widened as he replayed the video he had just captured. The billionaire mocking a foster kid, the girl's trembling start, her fierce recovery. It was all there. He uploaded it to Twitter with a single line. Cruel billionaire dares orphan girl to dance for adoption, and she shuts him up. Within minutes, notifications lit up. Retweets, likes, comments exploding. By morning, everyone would know. Backstage, Talia pulled off her shoes and pressed her forehead to her knees. Claudine rubbed her back in slow circles, murmuring encouragement, but Talia wasn't listening. She kept replaying the moment in her head, the way the crowd had laughed, the way Grayson's eyes had glinted when he mocked her. "He didn't mean it," Claudine said gently. "That man doesn't know the first thing about you. Don't let his words stick." Talia lifted her head, eyes fierce. "He said he'd adopt me." Claudine froze. "Talia, he said it, in front of everyone. If I danced, he'd adopt me. I danced." Talia sighed, kneeling to meet her gaze. "Baby girl, that wasn't a promise. That was cruelty. Men like him, they don't mean what they say when they're trying to be clever." Talia's voice trembled. "But what if he did? What if, for once, somebody meant it?" Claudine's heart clenched, but she had no answer. Grayson slipped away from the ballroom later, retreating to the smoking balcony. He wasn't a smoker, but he needed the cold night air. Cleveland's skyline stretched before him, steel and glass glittering over the black waters of Lake Erie. He closed his eyes. The image came back unbidden. His daughter, Emily, laughing as she tried to copy salsa steps she had seen on TV. He had clapped, half distracted, already thinking of the next investor call. That was the last night he had truly seen her, before the accident. The ache in his chest was unbearable. He swallowed it with another gulp of bourbon. The door opened behind him. Evelyn Holt stepped out, her fur stole wrapped tight against the night chill. "You embarrassed yourself tonight," she said flatly. Grayson didn't turn. "I embarrassed a girl who doesn't even have a last name worth remembering. By tomorrow, no one will care." Evelyn's lips thinned. "On the contrary, by tomorrow, everyone will care, and you will have to clean it up." He finally looked at her, something sharp flashing in his eyes. "Then I'll write a check. Isn't that how this game works?" But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't enough. That night, Talia lay awake in her foster bed, staring at the cracked ceiling. Around her, the other kids snored softly. She held her grandmother's old scarf in her hands, twisting it tight. "If you can dance this salsa, I'll adopt you." The words rang louder than the music ever had. She wanted to believe they were cruel. She wanted to forget, but a tiny, desperate part of her clung to them anyway, because even a cruel promise was better than no promise at all. Her chest ached. She whispered into the dark, almost like a prayer. "Please, let someone want me." And across the city, Grayson Holt poured himself another drink, trying to drown the echo of a little girl's laugh, one long gone and another he had just mocked, into silence.
By sunrise, the video had exploded. Over 2 million views on Twitter, thousands of comments on Instagram, headlines flashing across morning news tickers. Cruelty caught on camera. Billionaire Grayson Holt mocks foster child. Hashtag adopt her trends as orphan dances after taunt. Heroic girl, heartless mogul. The world had seen it, replayed it, dissected it. And now neither Talia Green nor Grayson Holt could run from it. At the Briggs Foster house, Claudine was already fending off reporters camped outside the gate. She ushered the kids to the school van, shielding Talia with her body. Flashbulbs went off anyway, their shouts cutting through the morning air. "Talia, did you think he meant it? Talia, do you want Mr. Holt to adopt you? Did you feel humiliated?" Talia ducked her head, clutching her backpack straps so tightly her knuckles turned white. Inside the van, the other foster kids buzzed with excitement. "Girl, you're famous," one said. "They're calling you a queen on TikTok." Talia stared at her lap. Famous. The word didn't feel right. It wasn't fame she wanted. It was family. Claudine slid into the driver's seat, her voice sharp. "Don't listen to them, baby. It'll blow over." But as the van pulled away, Talia whispered under her breath, "What if it doesn't?" Across the city, Grayson Holt sat in his penthouse, TV muted, but captions screaming his name. His phone vibrated relentlessly. Angry texts from his board, half a dozen missed calls from PR firms, and one single message from Evelyn. "Damage control dinner, 7 p.m. Don't be late." He poured bourbon into a glass, ignoring the clock. "This is ridiculous," he muttered aloud, pacing the length of the room. "A joke, that's all it was. People are too soft, too sensitive. They're vultures, anything to tear down the powerful." His reflection in the glass wall sneered back at him. He looked exactly like the man he had spent his life swearing not to become. He hurled the bourbon glass against the wall. It shattered, amber liquid bleeding down the white stone. But the ache in his chest didn't shatter with it. At school, Talia couldn't escape it. Whispers trailed her through the hallways. Some kids cheered her, shouting "Dance Queen." Others mocked her, mimicking salsa steps and exaggerated gestures, laughing until tears ran down their faces. She walked with her chin up, pretending it didn't sting, but inside her stomach twisted. In math class, she caught sight of her phone screen. A notification blinked. #AdoptHer. 1.5 million posts. Her heart squeezed. Strangers on the internet wanted him to adopt her. Strangers believed the words he had thrown out like a dagger. Maybe he could mean it after all. She tucked the phone away, biting her lip until it bled. That evening, Grayson arrived at Evelyn's mansion for the so-called damage control dinner. The dining room glowed with candlelight, silverware gleaming, a long table set for 6, though only 2 were present. Evelyn sat at the head, regal in black satin, sipping wine as if the world outside were not in flames. "You've humiliated this family," she said coolly as he took his seat. Grayson snorted. "The internet has a short memory. Next week they'll be mad about something else." "Next week," Evelyn replied, "your investors may be gone. Your charities will distance themselves. Politicians who once begged for your donations will pretend they never knew you. Power is perception, Grayson. And you've handed them perception of a monster." He stabbed at the stake in front of him. "Better a monster than a fraud." Her gaze sharpened. "Is that what you think? That cruelty proves strength? That was your father's way. Not yours. At least I thought not." Grayson slammed his fork down, the clang ringing through the cavernous room. "Don't you dare compare me to him." But Evelyn didn't flinch. "Then prove you're different. Do something real. Not a check, not a press release. Something human." Grayson's jaw clenched. The word human echoed like an insult. Back in her foster bedroom, Talia sat cross-legged on her bed, clutching her grandmother's scarf. The fabric was soft, worn thin, smelling faintly of lavender. She whispered into it the way other kids whispered into diaries. "He said I'd adopt me, Grandma. What if he meant it? What if this is how I get chosen?" Her chest rose and fell in uneven breaths. Hope was dangerous. Claudine always said so. But it slipped in anyway, no matter how hard she tried to block it out. She opened her phone again, scrolling through the flood of messages. Some cruel, some kind. One comment caught her eye. "If Holt doesn't step up, someone else should. This girl deserves better." Talia's throat tightened. She typed a reply, then deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. Finally, she set the phone down and buried her face in the scarf. "I don't want better," she whispered into the fabric.
I just want someone." At Holt Tower, her assistant barged into his office the next morning, laptop in hand. "You need to see this." The viral video now had 40 million views. Late-night hosts were mocking him. Talk shows debated his emotional bankruptcy. Celebrities tweeted #adopter alongside photos of their own children. And buried among the noise was something that hit harder than all the rest. A clip of Talia, backstage after the gala, whispering into Claudine's shoulder. But what if for once somebody meant it? Grayson stared at the screen, his face pale. For the first time in years, he had no words. That night, the city slept uneasy. Talia, wide-eyed in the dark, clung to fragile threads of hope she hated herself for feeling. Grayson, alone in his glass castle, drowned in guilt he swore he didn't believe in. Both resisted the pull of what had begun, but the spark was already spreading into fire. The boardroom at Holt Technologies had never been so tense. A dozen directors sat around the glossy oak table, their faces grim. Screens on the walls replayed the viral video in humiliating silence. Grayson's mocking drawl, the girl's trembling steps, the stunned applause. "This is a disaster," one board member snapped. "Our stock is down 8% overnight. We're bleeding credibility." "You've become the face of cruelty," another said, his voice biting. "Adopt her isn't just trending, it's a movement. You need to fix this, Grayson." Grayson leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, feigning calm. "And what would you have me do? Hand over a check for 10 million? That usually makes people shut up." "No," his head of PR interjected firmly. "Not this time. People don't want money, they want redemption. They want to see you care." Evelyn's voice, sharp as ever, cut through the room. "They want the girl." Grayson turned, his jaw tightening. "Absolutely not." But the board buzzed in agreement. "It's perfect optics," one said. "You mocked her, you redeem yourself by sponsoring her education, supporting her foster home, better yet, a mentorship program, a photo op, clean, tidy, unforgettable." Grayson rubbed his temple, the beginnings of a headache pressing hard. "You want me to babysit? That's your solution?" "You want to save your empire?" Evelyn shot back. "Then yes." At the Foster house, Claudine nearly dropped the phone when the offer came. "Holt Technologies wants to sponsor Talia?" she repeated, disbelieving. The man on the other end, Grayson's assistant, spoke smoothly. "A mentorship initiative. Mr. Holt would meet with her weekly. We'll provide compensation for your time, of course." Claudine's eyes narrowed. "Compensation. Right." She glanced toward the living room, where Talia sat hunched over her homework. "This isn't about her. It's about saving his image." "Perhaps. But it could change her life." Claudine hesitated, heart aching. She had always sworn to protect Talia from being used. But what if this door, no matter how forced, was the one chance Talia had to be seen? "I'll ask her," she said quietly. When Talia heard, her heart nearly stopped. "He wants to meet me?" she whispered, eyes wide. Claudine's tone was firm. "This is not what you think. This isn't adoption, it's PR. They want pictures of you two together, smiling, like everything's fine. Do you understand?" Talia hugged her scarf tight to her chest. "But I'll still see him?" Claudine sighed. "Yes. Weekly, apparently." For a moment, Talia's hope flared, but almost as quickly, anger bubbled up. She remembered the sting of his words, the laughter of the crowd. "Then I'll go," she said, her voice hard. "Not because I want to help him, but because I want him to see me. Really see me." The first meeting was arranged at Holt Tower. The lobby was a cathedral of glass and marble, the kind of place that made visitors feel small on purpose. Talia clutched Claudine's hand as they walked in, her second-hand shoes squeaking softly on the polished floor. Employees whispered as they passed. Some offered sympathetic glances, others avoided looking at all. The elevator doors opened to the top floor. Grayson Holt was waiting. He looked different up close. Taller, colder, every detail of his suit screaming power. His expression was carefully neutral, but his eyes flickered when they landed on her. "Talia," he said, voice clipped. "Thank you for coming." Talia crossed her arms. "You didn't give me much choice." Grayson's brows rose slightly, but he said nothing. He gestured toward the office. Inside the room gleamed with wealth, mahogany, glass, leather, yet it felt sterile, lifeless. Evelyn settled into a chair, arms crossed protectively. Talia stood, refusing to sit. "So," Grayson began, folding his hands on the desk, "this is, awkward." Talia's chin lifted. "Not for me. You said if I danced, you'd adopt me. I danced." The words hit like a slap. Claudine inhaled sharply. Grayson froze. "That was a joke," he said finally, his voice strained. "I didn't mean—" "Then why did you say it? Why say something like that if you didn't mean it? Do you know what it feels like to want someone to choose you? Just once?" The silence that followed was suffocating. Grayson's throat tightened, but no words came. Claudine stood, touching Talia's shoulder. "Enough for today. We'll go." But before they could leave, Evelyn appeared in the doorway, regal, unreadable. "On the contrary, today is only the beginning." That night Talia lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Her chest hurt with the weight of it. He had looked right at her and still dismissed her. But she had seen something else too. A flicker in his eyes. Just for a second. Like he was carrying something he couldn't say. "I'll make him see me," she whispered into her scarf. And across the city, Grayson sat in his dark office, untouched bourbon on the desk. The girl's words replayed in his mind. "Do you know what it feels like to want someone to choose you?" He clenched his fists. He knew too well. But he would never admit it. Not yet.
The second meeting at Holt Tower was worse than the first. Grayson sat behind his desk like a judge. Evelyn perched elegantly nearby, and Claudine's protective presence at Talia's side felt more like a shield than support. The conversation was stiff, staged for cameras that snapped discreet photos. Billionaire and orphan, side by side. Talia hated it. She wanted something real, not flashes, not sound bites. She wanted answers. After the photo shoot ended, Claudine excused herself to take a call. Evelyn drifted out to speak with the PR team. For the first time, Talia was alone in Grayson's office with him. The silence was thick. "You're quiet," Grayson said finally, his tone clipped. "Nothing to say to you," Talia shot back. "Then why are you here?" "Because you said you would adopt me." He exhaled, pinching the bridge of his nose. "You don't understand how the world works." Talia's eyes narrowed. "And you don't understand how words work. You said it, I believed it. That's how the world works for me." Her voice cracked, and she turned quickly, blinking back tears. She wandered the office to escape his stare, running her fingers over the cold glass shelves filled with awards, framed magazine covers, polished sculptures. Then she froze. On the far shelf, half hidden behind a plaque, was a small silver frame. She reached for it before she could stop herself. The photo showed a little girl with dark curls, no older than 7, wearing a yellow sundress. She was mid-laugh, caught twirling in what looked like a park. Talia's breath caught. "Who is she?" Grayson's voice was sharp, almost panicked. "Put that down." Talia turned, clutching the frame to her chest. "She danced, didn't she? You knew someone who danced." "Give it back." His tone cracked like a whip, but his eyes betrayed something else. Pain, raw and unguarded. Talia shook her head. "Why hide her? She mattered to you." Grayson stood up, stepping toward her, every muscle tense. "Because she's gone." The words were jagged, ripped from him. He snatched the frame and set it face down on the desk, his shoulders heaving. Talia's chest ached. What happened? He didn't look at her. His voice was low, brittle. Car accident. She was 8. Her name was Emily. Silence filled the room, heavy and sacred. Talia gripped her scarf, her own voice trembling. My grandma taught me to dance. She said dancing makes the sadness smaller. But when she died, it didn't work anymore. Nothing does. For the first time, Grayson looked at her, not as a nuisance, not as a PR prop, but as someone who carried a wound like his own. The air shifted between them. Later in the car ride home, Claudine studied Talia's expression. What happened in there? Talia stared out the window, voice soft. He lost someone too. Claudine frowned. That doesn't make him less cruel. No, Talia admitted, clutching her scarf tighter. But it makes him human. That night, Grayson sat alone in his penthouse, the silver frame back on his desk. He traced the edges of the photo with a shaking finger. Emily's laugh rang in his ears, colliding with Talia's voice. Do you know what it feels like to want someone to choose you? For years, he had built walls of steel and glass around his grief, drowning it in whiskey and work. But that girl, this stubborn, sharp-eyed foster kid, had cracked something open. He hated her for it. He hated himself more. Talia lay awake in her foster bed, replaying the moment over and over. His face when he spoke Emily's name, the way his voice broke. For the first time, she didn't just see him as a cruel billionaire. She saw him as a father without a daughter. Her chest tightened. What if we're the same? She whispered into her scarf. But another voice echoed back, darker, sharper. What if he still doesn't want you? The next morning, Evelyn Holt called Claudine directly. Whatever happened yesterday, it stays between us. The world doesn't need Holt family tragedies paraded in the tabloids. Understood? Claudine bristled. You can't control what those children share with each other. Watch me, Evelyn snapped. Mr. Holt has an empire to protect. That girl will not become his weakness. But Evelyn was too late. The seed had already been planted. Between grief and longing, between silence and salsa steps, something fragile had begun to grow.
The third meeting was nothing like the first two. There were no cameras, no staged smiles. Just an awkward billionaire and a determined foster girl seated across from each other in the cavernous emptiness of Grayson's penthouse kitchen. The silence stretched, broken only by the soft hum of the refrigerator. Talia drummed her fingers on the counter. You don't cook, do you? Grayson arched a brow. Excuse me? You probably have a chef, or like 5 of them. His mouth twitched, almost a smile. I have a chef, singular, and she doesn't work weekends. So what do you eat on weekends? He gestured toward a drawer. Takeout menus. Talia slid off her stool and rummaged through the drawer. She pulled out a crumpled pizza flyer and waved it triumphantly. See, you're just like us. For the first time, Grayson chuckled. Not the polished, empty laugh he gave reporters, but something genuine. It startled him. Talia grinned. You should laugh more. You don't look so scary when you do. Grayson blinked at her, the words catching him off guard. No one had spoken to him like that in years. The pizza arrived 40 minutes later, cardboard box steaming on the counter. Talia folded her slice expertly, grease dripping onto her paper plate. Do you know how to eat it the right way? She asked. Grayson frowned. I think I can manage pizza. She demonstrated. Fold, bite, don't let it flop. Rookie mistake if you let it flop. Grayson smirked and mimicked her fold. His first bite dripped sauce down his expensive cuff. Talia burst into laughter. Congratulations, you failed Pizza 101. Grayson shook his head, but a smile tugged at his lips again.
The sound of her laughter filled the cold kitchen, warming corners of him he thought were dead. After dinner, Talia wandered toward the sleek sound system in the living room. Rows of playlists blinked on the screen. Her eyes lit up. "You have salsa music?" Grayson stiffened. Emily liked salsa. Talia's voice softened. "My grandma did too. She said salsa was how you told a story without words." She pressed play before he could stop her. A lively rhythm filled the penthouse, shaking dust from the silence. Talia swayed instinctively, her steps light, scarf fluttering in her hands. She spun once, giggling, then glanced at him. "Come on!" Grayson held up a hand. "No." "Why not?" "Because I don't dance." "Liar," she shot back. "You just don't want to remember." The words hit harder than she knew. Grayson's throat tightened. He wanted to snap at her, to end this, but instead, he stood, slowly, awkwardly. Talia beamed and took his hand. They moved clumsily at first, her small feet guiding his heavy steps. The music wrapped around them, a heartbeat of rhythm and memory. For one brief moment, the world felt different, alive, connected. When the song ended, they stood in silence, both breathing harder than the dance required. Grayson pulled his hand back quickly, retreating to the counter. He poured himself a glass of bourbon, but didn't drink it. Talia hugged her scarf to her chest, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're not as bad as you pretend." Grayson stared at the amber liquid in his glass. "Don't be so sure." But the words lacked their usual bite. Later that night, Talia scribbled in her worn notebook before bed. "He laughed, he danced, just a little. Maybe he's still hiding something, but maybe he could care. Maybe." She underlined the word maybe 3 times, then tucked the notebook under her pillow. Across the city, Grayson stood on his balcony, the city lights stretching endlessly below. He should have felt powerful. Instead, he felt the echo of a little girl's hand in his, guiding him through steps he thought he'd forgotten. For the first time in years, the bourbon glass remained untouched. If someone hurt you in the past but showed signs they could change, would you give them another chance or protect yourself and walk away? Drop your thoughts in the comments.
The morning headlines were merciless. Foster girl milks billionaire's guilt for fame. Cinderella act or calculated PR move. Holt's orphan, real connection or manufactured sympathy. Talia's face was plastered across every screen, laughing mid-dance, scarf fluttering, Grayson's hand in hers. The photos that had felt like magic now looked staged, twisted into a cruel narrative. At the breakfast table, Claudine slammed the paper down. "This is filth!" Talia's chest tightened. "They think I used him?" Claudine cupped her face gently. "Baby, you didn't do anything wrong. They'll twist anything for clicks." But Talia couldn't shake the image. The headlines, the smirking anchors, the online comments calling her a gold digger in training. It was Evelyn's voice in her head, sharp as glass. That girl will not become his weakness. At Holt Tower, Grayson stormed into the PR war room. Who leaked those photos? No one answered. Silence thickened. Evelyn sat at the head of the table, unflinching. "It doesn't matter who leaked them," she said coolly. "What matters is perception. Right now, you look like a fool. A billionaire falling for a child's manipulation." Grayson slammed his fist onto the table. "She's 12. She didn't manipulate anything." Evelyn's eyes narrowed.
Then why is she smiling in every photo? Why does it look like she's rehearsed this? You think the public will believe she's innocent? They never do. His jaw clenched. Doubt flickered. He remembered her laughter, the dance, her scarf. Real moments, or staged ones. The thought gnawed at him like acid. When Talia arrived at Holt Tower that afternoon for their next meeting, the tension in the air was suffocating. Grayson was already waiting in his office, pacing, papers scattered across the desk. He looked up sharply when she entered. "You've seen the news?" His tone was clipped, almost accusatory. Talia nodded, clutching her scarf. "It's all lies." "Is it?" His eyes bored into hers. "Because it doesn't look like lies." Her stomach dropped. "You think I planned this?" "I don't know what to think," he snapped. "Ever since that night, the cameras have followed us. Someone is feeding them exactly what they want. How do I know it's not you or Claudine?" Talia's throat burned. "I don't care about cameras. I just wanted you to—" She stopped herself, tears stinging. "Forget it." "No, say it," he pressed. "You wanted me to what?" Her voice cracked. "To choose me." The silence shattered her. He didn't answer, didn't reach for her, just stood there, jaw tight, as if the words were a burden he couldn't carry. Talia's chest heaved. "You really think I'd use you? After everything?" His gaze dropped. He couldn't meet her eyes. "I can't take that risk." The words cut deeper than any headline. Talia spun toward the door, fury and heartbreak colliding. "You don't get it, do you? I wasn't trying to hurt you. I just wanted to matter, to someone, for once." She yanked the door open and stormed out, scarf trailing like a wounded flag. Grayson stood frozen, the echo of her words burning in the air. He wanted to call her back, to say he believed her. But fear choked him. Fear of being used, fear of losing again. So he stayed silent. That night, Talia curled into herself on her foster bed, clutching her scarf so tightly the threads dug into her palms. Her notebook lay open, the words from last night mocking her. He laughed. He danced. Maybe he could care. She ripped the page out, crumpled it, and threw it across the room. Through sobs, she whispered, "He'll never choose me." Grayson sat alone in his penthouse, bourbon untouched again. He replayed her words on a loop. "To choose me." Emily's face flashed in his mind, her laughter, her tiny hands clapping to salsa music. And then the screech of tires, the siren's wail, the unbearable silence that followed. He pressed his fists to his eyes. He couldn't do it again. Couldn't risk caring, only to lose everything. But in choosing silence, he had already lost. By morning, the tabloids had doubled down, and Talia refused to return to Holt Tower. Claudine canceled the next meeting with a curt message. "She's not your puppet. Leave her alone." For the first time in years, Grayson didn't fight back. He just sat at his desk, staring at the silver frame of Emily, face down once more, wondering if this was who he'd become. A man too afraid to love, too broken to try.
The city seemed quieter after the storm. For 3 days, Talia didn't leave her foster home. She skipped school, ignored Claudine's gentle knocking, and buried herself beneath her blanket with her scarf wrapped tightly around her neck. Every headline felt like another weight pressing her down. Every replay of the gala video was a reminder of his voice, mocking her. But worst of all was that moment in his office, the way he hadn't defended her, the way he'd chosen doubt over her. Her notebook lay open on the floor, page after page filled with scratched-out lines. She had tried to write the hurt away, but the words only circled back. He didn't choose me. No one ever does. She hugged her knees, whispering the thought aloud, as if saying it would numb the sting, but it didn't. Across town, Holt Tower's penthouse was silent, but for the steady tick of an antique clock. Grayson hadn't gone into the office in days. The board could scream, Evelyn could lecture, the headlines could rot. He didn't care. All he saw was her face, wet eyes, trembling voice, the plea in her words. I just wanted to matter, to someone, for once. He poured bourbon into a glass and stared at it. For years this had been his answer, his shield, but now the amber liquid looked empty, powerless. He set it aside untouched. On his desk lay 2 photos, Emily in her yellow sundress, and a still shot from the Salsa video, Talia mid-spin, scarf flying. 2 ghosts, one lost, one pushing at the walls he'd built around his heart. He pressed his palms to his face. What if she's right? What if I'm too much of a coward to choose anyone? For the first time in years, Grayson felt the urge not to run from grief, but to do something with it, to let it mean something. He picked up the phone. At the foster home, Claudine answered the call with clipped suspicion. What do you want, Mr. Holt? Grayson's voice was rough, stripped of its usual authority. I need to see her. She doesn't want to see you. I know, but I have to try. Claudine hesitated, her maternal instinct bristling. You broke her heart. If you're going to show up, you'd better mean it. No cameras, no PR, no games. There was a pause. Then Grayson said quietly, no games. Not anymore. That evening, Grayson stood outside the foster home, suddenly unsure of himself. The house was small, paint peeling, but warm light spilled from the windows. It was the opposite of everything in his world, unpolished but alive. Claudine met him at the door, arms crossed. She's upstairs. She may not come down. Grayson nodded, throat tight. Thank you. Inside, the smells of home cooking hit him, garlic, onions, cornbread. He hadn't smelled a kitchen like this since his own childhood. He stood at the bottom of the staircase, staring up, every nerve in his body tense. He wanted to call her name, but the words caught, so he waited. Upstairs, Talia sat cross-legged on her bed, scribbling furiously in her notebook. She heard Claudine's muffled voice downstairs, then a silence that made her pause. She peeked out the door and froze. Grayson Holt stood at the bottom of the stairs. For a long moment, neither moved. The air between them was heavy, trembling. Finally, Talia called down, her voice brittle. What are you doing here? Grayson looked up, his face stripped of pride, stripped of armor. I came to say I was wrong. Her heart lurched, but she crossed her arms tightly. About what? About you. His voice cracked, but he pushed through. I let fear talk louder than truth. And the truth is, you matter. You mattered the second you stepped on that dance floor. I just didn't have the courage to admit it. Talia gripped the banister, every wall inside her trembling. So what now? You say sorry and I'm supposed to forgive you? No, Grayson said softly. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I had to tell you anyway. Because if I don't, I'll lose the only chance I've had in years to be more than a man with money and ghosts. The silence stretched. Talia's throat tightened. Every part of her wanted to believe them, but her scars screamed caution. How do I know you won't change your mind tomorrow? Grayson's eyes glistened. You don't. All I can do is show up and keep showing up until you believe me. Talia's chest heaved. She turned away, wiping her eyes. I don't know if I can trust you. Grayson swallowed hard. Then let me earn it. Neither moved for a long moment. The weight of the choice hung heavy in the air. Hers, his, both of theirs. Finally, Talia whispered, I'll think about it. Grayson nodded once, slowly. That's all I ask. He turned and walked out the door, leaving her with her scarf clutched tightly to her chest and her heart torn between hope and fear.
And for the first time, the silence between them didn't feel like an ending. It felt like the pause before a choice.
The community center was packed. It had been Claudine's idea. Talia should perform at the Salsa Showcase, a yearly fundraiser for local foster programs. "Let them see your fire," she'd said. "Don't let his doubt be the last word." Talia had agreed, but fear twisted in her stomach as she stood backstage, clutching her scarf like armor. The crowd buzzed with anticipation. Kids in bright skirts and shiny shoes darted past, laughing nervously. The scent of popcorn and floor polish mingled in the air. Talia's name was called. Her legs felt like stone as she stepped onto the stage. The lights blinded. The murmurs of the audience roared in her ears. She took her position, music poised to begin, then froze. Because she saw him, Grayson Holt, sitting in the front row, alone. No cameras, no Evelyn, no entourage. Just him. Her breath caught. The music began. At first, her steps were stiff. The beat pulsed, but her body wouldn't follow. Doubt clawed at her. What if she stumbled? What if she failed? What if he laughed again? Then her fingers brushed her scarf, and she remembered her grandmother's words. Dance makes the sadness smaller. She closed her eyes, let the rhythm in. Her body moved, hips rolling, arms sweeping, feet sharp and alive. The music filled her, lifted her. When she spun, her scarf floated like wings. The crowd gasped. Grayson's chest ached. He saw Emily in every twirl, but he also saw something more. Talia's fierce defiance, her hunger to be seen, her raw, unbroken spirit. She wasn't Emily. She wasn't a replacement. She was herself, and she was extraordinary. By the final note, the room erupted in cheers. Talia stood breathless, flushed, eyes searching the crowd for only one face. Grayson was already on his feet. Afterwards, backstage, she found him waiting. "You came," she whispered, half accusing, half awed. "I told you I would show up," he said, voice unsteady. She looked down at her shoes. Why? After everything? Grayson stepped closer, his eyes glistening. "Because I was wrong. You weren't using me. You were teaching me, reminding me of something I'd forgotten, that family isn't about blood or perfection. It's about choosing. And I choose you, Talia." Her breath caught, tears spilling over. "You mean it?" "With everything I have." He knelt slightly, meeting her gaze. "If you'll let me, I want to adopt you. Not for the cameras, not for my image. For me, for us." The words hung between them, trembling. Talia's heart pounded. All the pain, all the doubt, all the nights of whispering, "Nobody chooses me," washed against this moment. She clutched her scarf, then flung her arms around his neck. "Then I choose you too." Grayson's arms wrapped around her, and for the first time in years, the hollow in his chest felt full. The adoption process wasn't instant. There were hearings, paperwork, background checks. Evelyn raged, the press speculated, but none of it mattered. What mattered were the small things. Pizza nights, salsa lessons in the penthouse, laughter in the kitchen. Grayson learning how to braid her hair, badly. Talia helping him donate Emily's old toys to the foster home, not as erasure, but as honor. They healed in fragments, slowly, clumsily, but together. On the day the judge signed the final papers, Talia wore her grandmother's scarf proudly around her shoulders. The judge asked the formal question, "Mr. Holt, do you wish to legally adopt this child?" Grayson looked at Talia, his voice steady. I already have, but yes, yes I do. The gavel struck, and the room burst into applause. Talia's tears streamed as she whispered, "Daddy." Grayson's throat closed, but he whispered back, "My girl." That evening, they returned to the community center, now empty. The stage was dark except for a single spotlight. Talia tugged his hand. "One more dance." Grayson shook his head with mock protest. "You know I'm terrible." "You're learning," she said firmly. "And this time, no cameras, just us." She pressed play on her phone. The salsa rhythm filled the quiet room. Hand in hand they moved, clumsy, awkward, laughing. But then something shifted. Their steps found rhythm. Their hearts found each other. The music carried them, and grief loosened its grip. This was not about loss anymore. It was about choosing love again and again. And for the first time in both of their lives, they knew they were not alone. What does family mean to you? Blood, choice, or something entirely different? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you loved this story, you will definitely love the next one. It's more intriguing than you can ever imagine. So go ahead and watch it now. Click on the image on your screen right away to watch the next one. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It helps and encourages us to share the best human interest stories you'd love.